She hadn't opened the walk-in closet in months. The air inside was different, dusty, still untouched. Like a room in a museum, Isla stepped over the threshold, barefoot on the cool hardwood, her fingertips grazing the row of untouched dresses. Silk, lace, velvet, each one a different version of herself from a time when she still believed in forever. And there it was, hidden at the back. Ivory satin, faintly shimmering, but the illusion shattered the second she pulled it out. The champagne stain was still there. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. It had happened at the fitting party. Damon had toasted too wildly, to 5 more lifetimes with you, and the glass slipped. The liquid splashed across the bodice and everyone laughed. Even Alina. Especially Alina. Isla's hands trembled as she held the gown now, the bodice stiff with dried bubbles and broken dreams. It was supposed to be the dress she'd wear to renew her vows. 10 years. A celebration of surviving what most didn't, but instead of vows there was a voicemail. Just 6 months ago. I'm sorry, Isla. I'm leaving. I don't love you the way I used to. No explanation. No confrontation. Just a suitcase missing and his voice echoing cold through the phone. He left that same night, and took more than just his clothes. The credit cards were frozen. Her name vanished from the joint account. The prenup, well, let's just say Damon knew how to protect himself, but it wasn't the betrayal that wrecked her. It was who he left with Alina, her best friend. Her maid of honor, the woman who held Isla's hand during IVF injections, who cried with her when the embryo didn't stick, who said, "You'll be a mother someday. I just know it," and then she was gone. No calls, no answers, no closure. Isla had vanished too in her own way. She stopped going out, deleted her social media, moved back to the lakeside property her parents left her. Let the world forget her while she tried to remember who she was before Damon told her who to be. Now, standing with that ruined dress in her hands, the weight of it anchoring her, she finally let herself speak aloud. I should have burned this. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was expecting something. A knock on the door. Isla flinched. She hadn't ordered anything. No one ever came this far out without calling first. She padded softly down the hallway, dress still clutched in one hand, the champagne stain catching a glint of afternoon light. She opened the door. No one was there, just a package on the doorstep. Rectangular, cream envelope on top. She picked it up. No return address. Inside the envelope was a gold-foiled invitation. She read the names. Damon Whitmore and Alina Grace Weston request your presence at their wedding. Her fingers stiffened. Her vision narrowed. The dress slipped from her hand, pooling at her bare feet like a ghost collapsing. 3 weeks from now, same church, same date she and Damon had chosen for the renewal. She stood still for a long moment, then her lips parted. Game on. Before the gold-foiled invitation, before the silence and the betrayal, there were sunsets on the lake and champagne in fluted glasses. They had what people envied, a lakefront mansion framed by glass walls and modern stone, a floating dock with a teakwood boat, and weekends booked solid with charity galas, black tie auctions, and dinner parties where Isla's laugh was always slightly louder than she felt. From the outside, they were perfect. She played the role well. Smiling wife. Supportive partner. Damon's elegant shadow. Her Instagram told a fairy tale. One Damon encouraged, curated even. Perception is power, he would say, adjusting her pose before she snapped a photo. And you're the perfect image. For a while, Isla believed him. At first, his protectiveness felt like love. He insisted she stop working after her design blog took off. You don't need to work. We're building a life, not just content. He began picking her clothes for events. This one makes your eyes pop. Soon, even her meals were ordered for her before she sat down. She told herself this was devotion, until people began disappearing. First, her college friend Serena. She's not good for your anxiety, Damon had whispered after one brunch where Serena joked too freely about their past. Then it was Isla's old art mentor. Toxic energy. You don't need that now. And then quietly, slowly, Alina. At first, Isla didn't notice. Alina always had her own life. She was spontaneous, messy, a whirlwind of wild ideas and barefoot dancing. But even in her chaos, she never went more than a week without texting Isla something ridiculous or beautiful. Then 3 weeks passed. Isla texted twice. No reply. She asked Damon. He shrugged. She's probably backpacking again. You know how she is. But she didn't know anymore. Then came the first crack. It was a quiet Thursday. Damon was in the shower. Isla picked up his phone to check the time. Her own was dead. But the screen lit up to a message preview before it locked. You didn't delete last night's pic. Be careful. The name was just an initial. Isla blinked, froze. Her thumb hovered. She typed in his passcode. She knew it. She shouldn't have known it. She shouldn't have needed to know it, but the message was gone. Deleted. She scrolled the thread. Empty. Clean. Too clean. Later that night, she opened his gym bag to grab the dry cleaning receipt he'd asked her to find. Instead, she found lipstick. Not hers. Too dark, too bold. Alina bowled a smear on the cap. Her breath caught in her throat. It smelled like vanilla and heat. A smell she knew because Alina used to apply it in Isla's bathroom, teasing, I want to smell expensive when I cry later. That night, Isla said nothing. Damon lay beside her, scrolling stocks, talking about some land investment. She nodded at the ceiling and said, Maybe I'll call Alina tomorrow. See if she's back? He barely looked up. Don't waste your energy. She's not your friend anymore. Isla stared at him, but he didn't notice. He never noticed when she went silent. In the days that followed, Isla felt herself unravel, but carefully, quietly, like a thread being pulled at the hem. Something was off. Not just with Damon, with everything. The mansion no longer felt like home. It felt like a museum curated by someone else. Someone who wanted her to believe she was still the exhibit. She rewatched old videos of her and Alina. Galas, beach trips, wine nights on the dock. In one of them, Damon was in the background, watching, always watching. The next morning, Isla packed a small bag and left the mansion without telling Damon. She drove 3 hours to her family's cabin, alone. Just for the weekend, she told herself. It rained all night. That's when she fainted, and the test changed everything. Isla had always imagined that if a friendship ended, it would be loud. A fight, tears, something jagged and final. But Alina simply vanished, softly, like breath on glass fading into nothing. 1 week turned into 2. Then a month, no messages, no funny videos, no selfies with random coffee art or look who I ran into. Text from the bookstore. At first, Isla had excuses. She's probably in one of those no-signal yoga retreats. She's avoiding social media. Again, detoxing. She'll text any day now, but the waiting turned bitter. The last text Isla sent just read, Are you okay? It remained unread. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail. The sound of Alina's voice on the recording felt eerie now. Too chipper, too rehearsed. You've reached Alina Grace. Leave something worthy of my time. Isla didn't leave a message. She drove to Alina's apartment the next morning, still in a hoodie and sweatpants, heart pounding against her ribs like it already knew. The door was locked. The mailbox had 3 weeks' worth of flyers jammed inside. A neighbor peered through a peephole. When Isla knocked again, they cracked the door just enough. She moved out, the woman said. Middle of the night, I think. Couple weeks ago, quiet. Did you see her? The woman shrugged. A man was helping her carry boxes. That's all I know. Isla stood there long after the door shut. The hallway smelled like stale curry and lemon cleaner. It used to smell like Alina's sandalwood candles. Back in the car, Isla stared at her phone. She hadn't told Damon she was going. She drove home in silence, her knuckles tight around the steering wheel. The lipstick tube she kept in the cup holder digging into her wrist like a reminder. That night, she asked him, voice low but sharp like she already expected the lie. Have you heard from Alina? Damon didn't look up from his tablet. Why would I? She disappeared. He blinked once. People grow apart, Isla, she swallowed. She was my best friend. He set the tablet down. His voice softened, but it felt rehearsed. You've had a hard year. You're tired. Maybe it's time you let that chapter go. Let go? He rubbed her shoulder. Focus on us. The future. But Isla didn't feel a future. She felt the walls shift around her like the house itself was built on a lie. The hallway photos, the dinnerware, the scent of cologne on the guest towels, it all felt curated. Alina was in this house once, many times. She laughed in this kitchen. She swam in their pool. She toasted their anniversary. Now she was gone, no fight, no goodbye, and her husband didn't seem to miss her at all. That night, Isla sat in her closet again, dress still on the floor from before. She picked up her phone, opened a blank note, and typed 4 words. She didn't just leave. In the silence that followed, something inside her hardened. She didn't know where Alina had gone, but she knew one thing. Damon did. The envelope was thick, heavy and cream-colored with gold-embossed lettering. No return address. Just her name written in precise cursive. Isla had almost tossed it. She thought it was another luxury catalog, one of those that still showed up no matter how. Many mailing lists she unsubscribed from, but something about the weight made her pause. She peeled the seal open. Her fingers trembled before her mind even caught up. Inside, resting on a soft gold insert, was a formal wedding invitation. Damon Whitmore and Alina Grace Weston request your presence at their wedding ceremony. 3 weeks from today, St. Augustine Cathedral. 4:00 p.m. reception to follow. The room tilted. Isla didn't scream, didn't cry. She didn't even move at first. She just stared at the card. The names etched in soft metallic ink, as if they belonged together. Damon and Alina. There it was, the confirmation. The truth laid out in elegant serif font, so Alina hadn't just left. She had run straight into Damon's arms, and now they were making it public. Marrying. 3 weeks from today. In her church. Isla gripped the invitation so tightly that the edges bent under her fingers. She turned it over, checked for a note, a message, an apology, a warning, something, nothing. The envelope offered no sender, but she knew it had come from Alina. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, a flex, a message wrapped in civility. We won, it whispered. You lost, her heart pounded in her ears. 6 months. That's how long it had been since the silence began. Since Alina disappeared and Damon pretended not to care. Since Isla had walked out of the house and tried to rebuild herself in a place where no one whispered about the divorce. She had wondered, of course. Imagined every version of the truth. But nothing had prepared her for this. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the timing, the date. It was the same one she and Damon had chosen for their vow renewal. Booked years in advance. They'd chosen St. Augustine because it was where they first met, on the church steps after a winter gala. It had meant something, now it was being recycled, reused, defiled. She sat down slowly on the edge of her bed, the invitation lying open in her lap like a wound that wouldn't close. Her phone buzzed beside her. A news alert. Some celebrity wedding in Italy. She swiped it away. The room was dim now, evening sneaking through the blinds. The silence stretched. Finally, she whispered aloud. They really did it. The words made it real. A flicker of nausea rolled through her stomach. She could have ignored it, thrown it away. Let them have their grotesque celebration in peace. Let the past rot where it lay. But then she imagined Alina standing in her church wearing his last name, smiling for the same photos Isla never got to take. She imagined the applause, the toasts, the smug glances, and something snapped. She picked up the invitation, smoothed the bent corner. If they wanted her attention, they had it, and this time, she wouldn't show up crying. She'd show up ready. The room smelled like antiseptic and lavender. Soft jazz played from a tinny wall speaker, the kind meant to calm nerves but only made Isla more aware of her own pulse. She lay flat on the paper-covered exam table, cold gel smeared across her stomach, gown parted. The screen beside her flickered black and white, shapes twisting into something biological, something shocking. The technician's brow had lifted, then again, and again. She finally smiled, lips tight. I'm just going to call in the doctor. Isla blinked. Wait, what? The technician didn't answer. She just wiped her hands and slipped out the door. 10 minutes earlier, Isla had walked into the clinic dizzy, breathless, and clutching a brown paper bag of groceries she'd abandoned in the car. She thought it was low blood sugar, maybe a drop in blood pressure. She hadn't told anyone she was coming. No Damon, no Camille, no press, no trace, just her and a whisper of fear. Dr. Marin entered, eyes kind but steady, her ponytail pulled tight. You're Isla Whitmore? She asked gently. Isla nodded. Your vitals are strong. No signs of distress. But we did an ultrasound to be sure. She turned the monitor slightly toward Isla. There are 4, she said quietly. Isla blinked again. 4 what? Babies, the room shifted. Like the floor tilted just enough to knock the breath from her lungs. Dr. Marin continued, her voice low and clinical. You're carrying quadruplets. Naturally conceived, no signs of fertility drugs or IVF protocol. It's rare but not impossible. You're about 8 weeks along. Isla's mouth was dry. I don't... She tried to sit up, but the gel and the fear kept her pinned. She hadn't planned for this. Hadn't thought it was even possible. Years of fertility failures, syringes, late periods, disappointments that sat like ghosts in the bathroom drawer. And now this? She stared at the screen. 4 fluttering heartbeats. Her body remembered how to cry before her mind did. Not sobs, just quiet tears that slipped down her temples and into her ears. The doctor placed a tissue in her hand and left her alone. Outside, Isla sat in the car for 20 minutes. The groceries had spoiled. Her phone buzzed, junk email and an old subscription alert. She ignored it. Back at the lake house, she closed every curtain. No one could know. Damon would twist it. Use it, he had money, lawyers, power. If the press got wind of it, they'd swarm the house like they used to, before the divorce when their marriage was still aspirational. She needed silence. Camille was the only one who called. Isla ignored it, but now, days later, that golden wedding invitation lay on her nightstand next to the ultrasound photos. 4 perfect heartbeats. 1 heart shattered. She stared at the sonogram in her lap. All 4 were real, alive, waiting. She had carried Damon's lies. Now she carried his legacy, and she was done being quiet. She opened her phone and texted Camille. Meet me tomorrow. It's time. Camille arrived just after noon, dressed in black jeans, combat boots, and the same gray hoodie she used to wear during finals week. The only thing that had changed was the steel badge clipped to her belt and the glint of quiet fury behind her eyes. Isla stood barefoot at the door, clutching a lukewarm mug of tea she hadn't touched. Still don't lock your doors, huh? Camille muttered as she stepped inside. I figured if anyone wanted to kill me, they'd have done it by now, Isla replied. Camille gave a half smile, dramatic. You haven't changed. You have. They sat in silence for a moment. Camille took the tea, inspected it, then set it down. Isla broke first. He's marrying her, Camille. I know, she said softly. You've been watching? I never stopped. Camille leaned forward, elbows on her knees, voice low. Listen, I let you walk away from that man because you needed space, but I knew something was off even before the wedding got announced. Damon doesn't just fall in love. He calculates. That's what I tried to tell you back in college. He's strategic, possessive, dangerous. Isla looked away. I didn't want to believe it. I know, Camille said. But now you do. Isla reached into the side drawer and pulled out a slim folder. Inside were the sonogram photos. 4 tiny, undeniable lives. Camille's eyes widened. Holy, I haven't told anyone else. Camille looked up. Not even him? Isla shook her head. Especially not him. Camille sat back, breath held like a loaded gun. Okay, then let's find out what else he's hiding. Over the next 2 hours, Camille pulled out a tablet and opened files Isla didn't even know could be accessed without a court order. There are at least 2 bank accounts that were opened under your name 6 months before the divorce, Camille said, tapping the screen. 1 in the Cayman Islands. 1 in Dubai. What? Isla leaned closer. They've both been closed. Funds drained 3 weeks before he moved out. I never signed anything. He forged your digital signature. Sloppy, but effective. Isla's throat tightened. Why would he do that? To make sure you couldn't fight back. If you had those funds, you could have hired lawyers. Bought your own narrative. Camille flipped to the next screen. This, she said, is where it gets worse. She showed Isla the business registration for a company called Silva and Gray Consulting. Listed under 2 names, Damon Whitmore and Alina Grace Weston. They registered it a month after he left you. The address is tied to one of Damon's old commercial properties, a shell space. Isla's pulse raced. What does the company do? Nothing. On paper, it advises luxury clients on media strategy. But it's never posted revenue. No client list. No website. It exists for one reason: to hide assets. A sharp silence filled the room. Isla leaned back, her voice hollow. They planned this, didn't they? Camille's tone darkened. For a long time, and they were counting on you staying quiet. Isla looked at the ultrasound photos again, then at Camille. I'm not staying quiet anymore, Camille stood. Then let's make some noise. The rain tapped steadily against the windows as Isla sat curled on the velvet armchair, the flicker of Camille's tablet lighting her face. It was the quiet moments that made the memories hit harder, not with screams or slaps, but with the slow erosion of her voice. Her will. Camille didn't speak. She just waited and Isla began to talk. He started with the small things, she whispered, like moving my keys, laughing when I couldn't find them, then replacing my vitamin supplements with something else. Said the pharmacy gave him the wrong ones. I didn't notice, I just trusted him. Her fingers dug into the armrest. I started getting headaches, mood swings. I thought I was going crazy. Camille looked up. He was changing your meds? Isla nodded, shame bleeding through her features. The doctor said the dosage looked fine, but he was slipping in something else, mild sedatives, anxiety meds. Not prescribed to me. I found a bottle once in his office drawer. It had my name, but the label had a pharmacy I never used. I confronted him. What did he say? That I was paranoid. That I needed help. That I was unraveling. Camille's jaw flexed. Classic gaslighting. Isla stared out the window. He told my family I was emotionally unstable. That I'd stopped taking care of myself. My sister stopped calling. My mother started sending prayer cards. And Alina. Isla's throat tightened. She would rub my back while I cried. Tell me I was strong, that he loved me in his own way. Then one day she just stopped answering. Camille turned the tablet toward her. This wasn't just a toxic marriage. It was a psychological operation. Isla didn't flinch. He wanted me alone, powerless, so when he finally left, I wouldn't even know how to scream. Camille's fingers tapped on the screen, scrolling quickly through files. Which brings us here. She spun the tablet around. A document glowed on the screen. Business paperwork. Dense paragraphs of legalese, but one phrase stood out, highlighted in yellow. Project Gardenia. Phase 2. Implementation. Timeline. Isla blinked. What is that? Your name isn't on it, but Damon's is. So is Alina's. Filed under the shell company Silva and Gray. This isn't a media firm, Isla, it's a front. For what? Camille exhaled. That's what I don't know yet. But it started 2 years ago. Right around the time your fertility treatment stopped. Isla's blood ran cold. What does that have to do with anything? Camille zoomed in on a line of text under project objectives. Target, long-term maternal viability. Assets, 4 embryos confirmed. Isla sat forward slowly. No. They used your embryos, Isla, without your knowledge. Or consent. No, Damon would never. Camille's voice was firm. He already has. And Project Gardenia is the key. This wasn't just emotional abuse. It was premeditated exploitation. Isla gripped the arm of the chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. He never wanted children. He said it was too complicated. That I was too fragile. But Alina's not, Camille said. And if they used your embryos, that makes you biologically their mother. Isla finished, her voice cracking. The silence in the room grew thick. Camille stood. This isn't just about a wedding anymore. No. Isla whispered, eyes burning. This is war. Camille drove them out just past the city limits to a nondescript glass building with tinted windows and a discreet sign that read, Nova Reproductive Sciences. No logos, no tagline. Just clean, clinical anonymity. Isla stared at the building from the passenger seat, stomach tight. I've been here before, she murmured. Camille nodded. 3 years ago, you and Damon came for your final round of IVF. According to the medical records I pulled, it was inconclusive. You were told the embryos didn't survive. They didn't, Isla whispered. Camille gave her a look. Isla's voice wavered. That's what he told me. Inside, the lobby was softly lit and eerily quiet, like a luxury spa pretending not to be a medical facility. A receptionist greeted them with a script-ready smile. Camille flashed a badge, real or forged, Isla didn't know, and dropped Damon's full name. I'm here regarding Damon Whitmore's donor records. I've already emailed legal. The woman froze, then typed quickly. Camille leaned over to Isla. This place isn't just for hopeful parents. It also runs private contracts, some so private they skip FDA reporting. Damon was one of their silent investors. He had access. The receptionist called for someone named Dr. Angeli Voss. 15 minutes later, a woman in her late 40s appeared. Crisp lab coat, perfect posture. She was cautious, polite, but she knew why they were there. Camille wasted no time. We know Damon Whitmore authorized embryo preservation 3 years ago. We know the embryos were fertilized with his and Isla's genetic material. We also know they were never destroyed. Dr. Voss folded her hands. Those records are sealed. They're about to be unsealed in court. A flicker of panic crossed the doctor's face. I need confirmation, Isla said, voice soft but firm. Did Damon freeze our embryos? Dr. Voss hesitated, then gave the slightest nod. And you used one? Isla asked, another pause. There was a surrogacy agreement filed through a third-party agency. The embryo was implanted 8 weeks ago. Isla's breath hitched. Who's the surrogate? Dr. Voss's eyes darkened. That information is protected, Camille stepped forward. We already know. Her name is Alina Grace Weston. The silence that followed was louder than a scream. Dr. Voss finally lowered her voice. I didn't know the full extent of their relationship. I was told it was a private arrangement. Damon provided all the signatures. Including yours, Isla. My forged signature, Isla snapped. Dr. Voss nodded faintly, shame creeping into her expression. Camille held up her phone, snapping photos of the paperwork Dr. Voss laid out under protest. Isla stared at the document. Her name in perfect cursive, not her handwriting. Not her consent, she whispered. They used my body to build their family. They stole your bloodline, Camille corrected. Isla stood up too fast. The room tilted. Her own pregnancy already made her lightheaded, but now it was fury that boiled beneath her skin. She looked at Camille. I'm not letting her carry my child like he's some gift he earned. Camille met her eyes. Then we hit them where it hurts. At their wedding, in public, with court orders, with proof. Isla looked down at the last line on the contract. Project Gardenia, Phase 2, birth schedule, media coordination. They're planning to announce it, she whispered. Camille's voice was ice. Not if we announce first. As they stepped back into the car, Isla clutched her own sonogram photos like armor. She stared out the window, back toward the city. The wedding was 10 days away, and Isla had just found her war map. The tailor arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. Camille opened the door before he could knock twice, ushering him into Isla's living room, which had become a war room in the past 72 hours. Legal folders on the coffee table, ultrasound copies taped above the mantel, and a whiteboard scrawled with timelines and names. The dress was custom, deep navy, structured silk, no ruffles, no lace. Nothing soft. Isla didn't want to look romantic. She wanted to look undeniable. No more invisibility. She stood tall as the tailor took final measurements, her belly prominent now beneath the fabric. Each movement of the tape measure was a reminder. 4 lives growing inside her. 4 truths no one would be able to ignore. When the man left, Camille raised an eyebrow. You're really going through with this? Isla nodded. He wanted a performance. I'll give him one. By noon, Camille had secured a lawyer. His name was Rami Halim, sharp and ethically flexible. When Camille explained the situation, embryo theft, surrogacy fraud, forged consent, he didn't blink. This will be loud, he said, scanning the documents. And possibly criminal. Good, Isla replied. Make it louder. Rami filed an emergency injunction with the family court and prepared a public service order, one that could be served in person, at the ceremony in front of witnesses. Judges don't usually love drama, he warned, but this one might. By late afternoon, Camille and Isla were at the car lot. Isla ran her fingers over the polished black limo, the chrome shining like it had something to prove. I want them to hear the engine before they see me, she said. Camille smirked. The sound of reckoning. They booked the driver under a different name. Confidential pickup. Direct route to St. Augustine Cathedral. At the baby store down the street, Isla bought 4 matching onesies, cream cotton, soft gold lettering. Hi, Dad. Back at the house, she folded them carefully into a silk-lined carrier and whispered to her belly, they don't get to pretend you don't exist. The next morning, 2 rental car seats were delivered. Twin carriers. Isla practiced clipping and unclipping, her fingers shaking not from fear but readiness. Camille watched quietly, then said, "We need to be smart about when you enter. Not too early, not too late. Right after the vows," Isla said, "when he thinks it's all locked in. That's when I want to walk through those doors. And if they try to stop you?" Isla didn't blink. "Then we push harder," Camille nodded. "I'll be inside. Rami too. You won't be alone." That night, Isla stood in front of the mirror wearing the full dress for the first time. She looked like someone else. Or maybe the person she'd buried long ago. Strong, strategic, a mother. Her fingers hovered over the invitation on the nightstand one last time. Damon and Alina. She smiled without warmth. Tomorrow, those names would mean something entirely different. The cathedral was wrapped in soft gold light, sunlight pouring through stained glass like a blessing. Inside, guests whispered behind manicured hands. Every seat was filled, investors, influencers, even a few familiar magazine editors. Damon liked spectacle. He liked control. The string quartet played something light, ironic, almost cruel. At the altar, Damon stood tall in a custom white tuxedo, boutonniere crisp against the lapel. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Not really. Not the way it used to. Alina emerged on cue, a vision in ivory lace. Her walk was poised, chin high, every step slow and rehearsed. Damon looked at her the way a man looks at a prize he's already owned. The priest cleared his throat, beginning the ceremony. It was halfway through the vows, right after, "Do you take this woman?" when the doors groaned open. The sound stopped everything. Not silence. Stillness. Everyone turned. Framed in the doorway, Isla stood in navy silk, a storm in human form. Her hair was pinned tight. Her eyes calm, dead calm. In her arms a baby carrier. Next to her a second. Behind her, Camille rolled in two more. 4 babies in total. Matching onesies. Matching faces. And beside Isla stood Rami Halim, dressed in a slate suit holding a thick envelope in one hand and a court seal in the other. The gasp wasn't loud. It rippled like wind through wheat. Damon's mouth parted slightly. Alina stopped breathing. The priest blinked. "Can I help you?" Rami stepped forward first. "Isla Whitmore is here to issue a formal objection." I don't believe," the priest stammered, unsure if this was theater or litigation. "I'm not here for him," Isla said, voice level, eyes fixed on Damon. "I'm here for them." She turned slightly, revealing the babies, 4 chubby-cheeked infants dressed in identical cream. One stirred, cooed, and Damon took an instinctive step forward. "Don't," Rami said sharply. "You lost the right to touch what's not yours," gasps again. "Phones now." Someone was filming, Alina whispered. "This isn't happening." "You forged my signature," Isla continued, "and you used my fertilized embryos without my consent. You built a child in someone else's body and tried to erase me from the narrative. That's criminal." "I don't know what she's talking about," Damon started. Rami handed the court papers to the nearest usher. "This is a cease and desist order on Project Gardenia. The embryos were unlawfully harvested and implanted without informed consent. The surrogate agreement is void, and a formal suit for parental rights has been filed." "This is insane," Alina hissed, backing away from the altar. Damon's face drained of color. "We can resolve this privately." "No," Isla said. "You made it public the moment you invited the press. The moment you tried to replace me with someone I trusted." She glanced at the pews, at the glowing phones, at the rows of stunned faces. "You told me I was too fragile, too emotional, that I'd never carry a child to term. But I did, and now they'll grow up knowing exactly who tried to erase them." The babies stirred. One sneezed. Isla adjusted the carrier strap, never breaking eye contact. "I'm not here to beg," she said softly. "I'm here to end this." The priest stepped back from the altar. Alina turned, nearly tripping on her gown, her bouquet falling from her hands. Damon stood frozen, sweat blooming at his collar. Behind Isla, Camille gave a slight nod. Rami stepped forward again. "This wedding is legally compromised under active investigation. I suggest no one here says I do to anything until counsel is present." And with that, Isla turned and walked back down the aisle, babies in tow. This time, she didn't look back. The courtroom smelled of old wood, Harsh paper and tension. Reporters lined the back wall. Pens twitching, cameras angled low. Damon sat at the defense table in a navy suit, jaw tight, jawline freshly shaved. But no amount of polish could cover the cracks now spider-webbing across his life. Isla sat across from him, spine straight, lips calm. A single white gardenia pinned to her blazer, subtle, intentional. It had been 21 days since the wedding that wasn't. 21 days of headlines. Socialite bride. Walks into wedding with quadruplets. Shuts it down. Project Gardenia scandal, fertility fraud, or high-stakes heist. Isla Whitmore breaks silence. But today wasn't about media. It was about truth. Camille was first to the stand. Direct. Measured. She presented files, signatures, transaction records, fertility logs, every breadcrumb Damon thought he'd buried. She didn't look at him once. Alina sat 2 rows behind Damon, pale and drawn. Her lawyer had filed a separate defense, manipulated by a powerful partner, unaware of the embryo origins. Isla didn't believe her. Not completely, but it didn't matter. This trial wasn't for vengeance. It was for clarity. The judge reviewed the forged consent documents, the offshore accounts, the non-disclosure agreements Damon had issued to clinic staff. When Isla was called to the stand, the room hushed. Her voice didn't shake. Not once. He told me I wasn't strong enough to be a mother, she said. He told me I was better off without children, all while stealing my ability to choose, my DNA, my rights, and using them to build a life with someone else. Damon didn't meet her eyes. Isla continued. He isolated me from friends, controlled my medication, rewrote my medical history, then erased me. Her fingers brushed the edge of the witness stand, but I remember everything. The judge's gavel echoed hours later. Official findings: fraud, medical consent violation, parental rights upheld in Isla Whitmore's favor, all financial assets linked to Project Gardenia, frozen. Custody of the quadruplets, permanently granted to the biological mother. A soft sound moved through the room. Not applause, something heavier. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. Damon didn't move. Just sat, eyes glassed, empire crumbling inside his silence. As the courtroom emptied, Isla stood slowly. Reporters rushed to the steps outside, but Camille blocked them with a curt wave. No statements. Not today. Isla stepped out into the late afternoon sun. Warmth hit her cheeks. The scent of city buses and distant jasmine floated on the breeze. She glanced down at the gardenia on her lapel. White, perfect, unbent. A symbol Damon used in every company gala. Every staged photo, he once said, gardenias mean purity, legacy. She touched the bloom gently, leaned close to Camille and whispered, "He planted this." Then she walked forward, her children waiting just down the steps, their car seats lined in a black SUV. This wasn't a story of what was taken. It was the beginning of what she reclaimed.